thank you very much to everybody for joining us for the first Champel Capital event summit. Today, we are extremely pleased to have with us Eyal Waldman, who is the former CEO and the founder of Mellanox, one of the most amazing Israeli companies ever, which was sold last year for NVIDIA. It's the second largest exit in Israel's history. And the event will be moderated by Hillel Fuld, who is widely recognized as being one of the leading, if not the leading, tech blogger in Israel. And we are privileged to have both Eyal and Hillel with us in Champel Capital on our advisory board. And I hope the technical issue will be now working. And I'm going to give Hillel now the opportunity to present himself in a few words, and then we're going to start with the Q&A. Hillel?
I'm here, but I can't initiate video.
Can you do it now?
I'm unable to initiate video. Oh, there we go. Oh, look at that. Hello. Beautiful.
Okay, now we just have to find a way for Eyal also to have his video on.
Yes, that would be important. I don't know. Do I look starstruck? Can you tell that I'm starstruck?
You're a host now. I think you can make Eyal. Maybe you, right.
Should I make Eyal the meeting host?
Yeah, maybe.
All right, I did that. Eyal, you should be able to get on video now.
Eyal, now I think we should be able to see you. If you are.
There we go.
Okay.
Great.
There we go. How many tech people does it take to get Zoom to work?
Yeah, probably 3.
There you go. Amazing. All right, Amir, you want to kick off a couple of words?
No, I said something already. You're welcome to start.
Okay. So thank you everyone for coming. I love how many people are here. We'll be doing this regularly. Champel Capital is an early stage fund based in Jerusalem. Amir and I go back about 25 years or something like that. Investing in early stage tech companies and some incredible investments. I've been with the fund for a couple of months now, and like I said, I'm a little bit starstruck to meet Eyal. I've been following his career for many years. So thank you, Amir, for connecting us, first of all. I think just for context, because I'm a big fan of context, let's just start with Eyal. If you could just give us a little bit of background on who is Eyal Waldman. I know it's a very long story. Let's see if we can kind of sum it up in like a minute or two.
Yeah, so I'll give you like a short history. I was born in Jerusalem, in Israel. I done my elementary school in Rehovot. Then my mom, she did her postdoc in Edinburgh, so I relocated to Scotland for 1.5 years. Then I came back, did my high school in Jerusalem, went to the army. Was in the Golani Brigade, one of the elite units, infantry in our army. Did the officer's course, became an officer. I left, or I was released from the army after the first Lebanon war. Then studied in the Technion, computer engineering for 4 years. Started working as a software engineer for the Lavi, which was supposed to be an Israeli aircraft that was canceled later. Then went to do my master's degree, my second degree in electrical engineering, also in the Technion. Started working at Intel for 3.5 years. This was my first real job as an engineer that I've learned a lot. And I think Intel is a great company in terms of development, research, and many other aspects, methodologies, working right, taking care of employees. And after 3.5 years, I joined Avigdor Wielenz, and we've started Galileo Technology. In Galileo, we started in '93. We were a fabless semiconductor company doing system controllers for the MIPS and then also Ethernet switches. Took it public in '97 for $250 million. Later on, Galileo was sold to Marvell for $2.7 billion. But before that, I actually left Galileo and started Mellanox Technologies. I was the CEO, president, and sometimes chairman of Mellanox for 21 years. And last year, we closed the deal with NVIDIA and sold the Mellanox to NVIDIA for $7 billion. So roughly, this is kind of my short resume in terms of my background.
I think it might have been easier for you to tell us what you have not done. So next time I'll ask you, yeah, what have you not done? Okay.
But one thing I didn't say is that, there's two companies. Mellanox, we took public in 2007. So I was involved, one as a VP engineering, one as a CEO of two companies that were very successful. We took them both public on NASDAQ and both were sold for billions of dollars. So, and then there's many things I have not done yet. So there's more things I'd like to do.
I love it. Okay, so you're kind of representation of all that is exciting about Israeli tech, and so I'm sure those that are here and in the audience and we've all noticed a really interesting transition, I guess, from startup nation to something a whole lot bigger. We're seeing endless IPOs via SPACs, via just regular IPOs. We're seeing monster rounds. We're seeing endless exits. It's incredible to see. I know that. Champel is raising another fund right now to invest in Israeli tech companies. And, it's never been this exciting. And so I guess my question is, how do you explain this, Eyal? Like, we're a country smaller than New Jersey in the worst neighborhood on earth. We have every possible challenge that you can imagine. And we are leading the world in innovation. And when I say leading, I don't mean we're number one necessarily, but in every sector of technology, we're a significant player. How do you explain that?
So first, I think we're actually living in the best place to live in the world. There's great weather. There's a great atmosphere and culture here. So what's happening is because Israel, because maybe what you said about the neighborhood, we had to defend ourselves. We were always had to depend on our own technology, on our own capabilities, and actually not winning meant something very fatal for the nation. So as part of being an Israeli, you always had to keep winning. You always had to make the right decisions, the right, what ifs, plans, the right leadership, direction choosing, and so on, in order to stay an independent country. So when you go into the army when you're 18 years old, and you learn how to do many things, but when you go to officers course, you really learn how to be a leader. And take that and you really lead a group of people that really depend on you. It puts a lot of responsibility on you, and you learn to manage and to lead and be an example for a group of people that will follow you anywhere. When then you become a manager of a technology company, you're actually in a war. You have competitors, you have vendors, you have allies, you have many more things, and you need to think a lot ahead of time. You need to do a lot of what if scenarios, and you need to lead many people that will follow you regardless of what's going on. So take that as one element. The second element, technology has proven itself to be one of the strongest elements of making Israel strong. So imagine kids at the age of 18 getting responsibilities of developing projects that sometimes seem like science projects or very advanced projects, and they do it and they execute. And those technology projects are successful because otherwise we wouldn't have the strength that we have. So you learn how to think far ahead in advance of your competitors. You learn how to execute projects how to bring them to production, to really work in real life, in mission critical systems, in environments, industrial and military environments. And that really makes our technology fundamental very, very strong. So take the two elements of one, great leadership training, and then great technology that needs to be second to none. Otherwise, you're not on top of everything. And merge them together, you have a lot of entrepreneurs that have went through this education, has went through this training, have developed great technology, and now they come out of the army and they can start doing startups. And then when you do startups, you say, I have no option to lose. I know how to make the technology work. I need to bring the technology to work. Otherwise, we don't exist anymore. And that combination is what makes Israeli entrepreneurs and sometimes the Israeli high tech or the high tech nation, as it's called, pretty successful worldwide.
Love it. And by the way, I agree with you about living here. It's the best, but our neighboring surroundings are not exactly sympathetic. Okay, so
by the way, I like our neighbors, and we should learn to do peace with our neighbors.
Amen. I like them too. They just don't like me.
I think that we have great neighbors in Jordan and in Egypt and the Palestinians, and we just need to do the right things and create two countries and do the peace between and then everything will be greater, even greater. Yeah, it'll take a few years.
Yeah, I love how we just jumped right into politics right from the beginning.
Oh, you're talking about our neighbors, and I just wanted to say, we need to look at our neighbors as our neighbors, not as our enemies.
Right.
And when
okay,
we do
so
that, I think everything becomes much easier and simpler. But let's go back to technology and what you wanted to ask.
Let's talk tech. It's easier. Okay, so you mentioned your background, and you've really worked in several verticals, several sectors. And that's, I guess, what makes you very unique. And so I wanted to know, as someone who's worked in so many verticals, what are the most exciting verticals and sectors that are worth paying attention to within the Israeli tech, innovation ecosystem? What excites you most?
Yes. So, today, deep tech. So when you do a startup and the barrier of entry to what you're doing is not that high, I think it's less interesting. And if that is the case, you need to either run very fast or have some unfair advantage to really be a winner. But if you're really talking about deep tech, and the barrier of entry to what you're doing is significant, you have a much higher chance to be successful. So what I like is deep tech technology, and that doesn't need only to be in semiconductors. It could be in agriculture, it could be in medical equipment, it could be in many, many things, in fintech. So places that develop real technology that has a differentiation, that gives them an unfair differentiation compared to their competitors. And they have deep technology that gives them the basics of, again, I guess, being ahead of other teams trying to develop this. This is what I like most. I think we have many such examples here in Israel, both in the semiconductor area, in agriculture, in fintech that you're seeing coming out here, ad tech. And those companies develop the first technologies, create the first movers or a barrier of entry, and then they run fast and they go very, very fast. And you're seeing many companies here in the past years go out with valuations of billions of dollars to become public companies or be acquired by other companies. But I think the deep tech side of the technology of the startups is what is interesting for me.
So now I understand why you're on the board of Champel that's investing in deep tech. And by the way, it's a huge honor to be on any board with you. So I just wanted to say that. But many years ago when I started doing public speaking, someone said to me, the best thing to do when you're giving a speech or moderating a panel is to create controversy. Okay, so I'm going to create a little controversy, Eyal, if that's okay. You talk about deep tech. I'm curious to know your thoughts on that, because if you look at all of the winning companies in the tech world globally, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Airbnb, Uber, and on, none of them had proprietary tech. Tech wasn't what differentiated them. It was execution. I mean, now Facebook obviously has tech to help them scale, but in the beginning, they didn't have a unique idea and they didn't have any proprietary tech. It was just execution. So,
I tend to kind of disagree with you because that's what you want. But if you look at that, building a company that serves millions and then tens of millions and then hundreds of millions, then billions of people is a big advantage. Building the infrastructure. So people look at Facebook or at Google or others, I think sometimes don't see the deep technology being developed in their data center. Because imagine you're doing Facebook or Google and your data center collapses every other hour, or the speed of getting the picture that you want to see is more than 8 seconds. They will not be successful. So the technology that those companies that you see as software companies, that you see don't have deep technology, they have developed very deep technology in actually adopting supercomputers into their data center. And that is why they're all, or I shouldn't say all, most of them are using Mellanox now in NVIDIA. Because when Mellanox started, we focused on supercomputers and we kind of gained the 70% of the supercomputer market. But if you think at Google, at Facebook, at Alibaba, at Baidu, at Tencent, at ByteDance, TikTok, at also Netflix, Twitter, and others, and Uber, they're building a data center that has either a small supercomputer or a large supercomputer, where it needs to serve even billions of people at the same time, not fail, because if it's failing, you're losing tens of millions of dollars every second. And that is a very big technology. So those technology, the application itself is very interesting and it's very important. And that's the basic of what they're doing. But the underlying technology of what Google have developed, Facebook, Microsoft, and everybody else, Amazon, AWS, and so on, is very deep tech in order to build supercomputers, super storage, or hyper storage, hyper converged infrastructure in order to serve billions of people at the same time at the speed of light, with a huge amount of storage and capabilities to attract more and more users to use them.
Right. So if I may push back one more time. So of course, at this scale, Facebook, we've never known a website, at this scale, right? So obviously right now they're very deep tech, but the question is chicken and egg, meaning did they succeed and then need that deep tech in order to scale, or did they have the deep tech when they launched and that's how they scaled? Because when Facebook launched or Twitter launched, they weren't at that scale. So did they have supercomputers, or was it just a website that was a social network and then they grew and they needed that deep tech?
No, the smart thing that the smart people grow together the needs and the capabilities. They foresee, they understand what's going to happen the next year. They forecast that, they do the what if scenarios, and then they build the right infrastructure to meet the requirements, the demands of where they're going to be next year. If they don't do this, they will fail. So it's not a chicken and egg, but it's like a process where you understand where you're at today. You know where you want to be in 3 months. You need to build the infrastructure. You need to plan for the next year, for the next 2 years. So it goes hand in hand, that the understanding the architecture, the design, and then the implementation of the infrastructure and the application.
Okay. All right. So everyone talks about, startup nation or scale up nation, whatever you want to call it. Everyone talks about the success stories, the Mellanoxes, the Waze and the Wix and the, Mobileye. Not enough people talk about the challenges. And no one knows better the challenges of building sustainable businesses. No one knows it better than you. And so I'm curious to hear your thoughts about Israel's primary challenges when it comes to our technology ecosystem.
Yeah, so I think, today, I think the number one challenge is human resources, education, and good human resources. So there's so many companies that are competing for the best human resources, and it's all about people that are competing for human resources. But I think this is a resource that's really sometimes the bottleneck of development of multiple companies and startups. Other than that, us being far away from the market, that's people overcome that by today, even by Zoom and flights and so on. But I think the main challenge that we have today is the number of human resources we have in order to build everything we want to do.
Right, especially with companies like Amazon snatching everyone up here and paying, salaries that no startup can even dream of paying. So, I hear that as a challenge from entrepreneurs pretty much every single day.
It's not just Amazon. It's Amazon. It's Apple. It's Google. It's everybody's actually here.
Yeah. That, by the way, that is an interesting point that you bring up. Like you said, everybody's here. I think that every single leading technology multinational company, I think except for Twitter, has opened up shop here in Israel. That's remarkable in and of itself. Like, why is that? Is that because of the talent? Is that because of, like, how do you explain that?
I think since Intel or maybe even National opened their design centers here in the mid 70s, people have realized of the capabilities of the Israelis' resources, their loyalty, their capability of running projects and collaboration. So I think that's what leading this.
Very interesting. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how you see the transition from the old, let's call it Israeli, semiconductors and even cyber to us, like I said before, pretty much, becoming a leading player in all sectors of technology. What are some sectors or some changes that you foresee in the next, let's call it decade within Israeli tech? What are some trends that you foresee happening?
First, I think we're no different than anywhere else in the world. So we are in the same bubble. Actually, the whole world became a very small village where everybody is talking, everybody's developing similarly together. So it's not like Israel is different than other places. So I think number one and or number two is semiconductors and artificial intelligence. Those are very interesting technology. Nearly everything we will do and touch will be operated by computers, and stored data is exploding. So semiconductors, artificial intelligence, which is also machines, are the very important fundamental technologies that will be required in the next multiple decades. If in the past the rich people had real estate, had the land, then it was energy. Now the people that have the data or can process the data are the advantaged people. And that's exactly where technology comes in. So anything that has to do to touch data, process data, manipulate data, store data, those will be the next companies that will be very successful. Actually use data for multiple applications that you want to use.
See, there's the difference between someone like you and someone like me. I'm excited about drones. I'm excited about VR, AR, MR. That stuff is like, but I understand that you're probably right and I'm probably wrong in terms of what we can expect over the next decade or two. But I want to tell you,
those are specific examples of using data and manipulating data and presenting data in various ways in order to create your augmented reality or to fly drones and so on. It's basically the ability to process data fast enough to make decisions to make the drone do what you want it to do.
Right. Okay. So I'm creating controversy and you're getting rid of it. You're saying we're saying the same thing. I like that. Thank you. Speaking of making peace. Okay. So, we talked about challenges. I really, we're seeing this new, quote unquote new, it's not new, but we're seeing so many SPACs, right? And for those listening or watching that don't know what SPACs is, it's a vehicle by which a company can go public without all the bureaucracy, without all the headache of going public. You basically latch on to a public company who kind of like brings you public, and it saves everyone a headache. And we've seen probably, I don't know, tens of SPACs over the past couple of months. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on that, Eyal, versus traditional IPOs.
Yeah, there's always pros and cons. Going through an IPO process, you're going through building the book and getting the right valuation from the public market, which evaluates you very, very thoroughly and very, very scrutinizing everything you write and so on. Doing it through a SPAC, actually, it's a much smaller group of people that determine your valuation, the amount of money you raise. So it's maybe slightly easier to do it through a SPAC. On the other hand, you pay much more to do it through a SPAC. So the SPAC sponsors are making a lot of money taking a company public or reverse merging into another company. So I think both ways are valid to become public, both as going through the regular IPO process and as a SPAC. I think companies that can go public through doing the standard IPO process probably should do it that way. Companies that think it'd be easier for them to do it via the special purpose acquisition vehicle should go use a SPAC. Eventually, the end result is you become a public company traded on a stock exchange in New York, and then you need to start proving yourself. So either way you go out public, you're just a starting point of becoming a public company, being measured every quarter by your results, being predictable, and continue growing.
Right. So because of these, monster valuations and all these SPACs and all these crazy rounds, there's a lot of talk about a bubble, right? I'm sure you get that question all the time. Are we in a bubble? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Are we in a bubble? Why yes? Why not? What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely valuations have expanded and the multiples are very, very high, but people are paying for that. So it is worth what it is for people that's buying that. Whether valuations will correct themselves down, that's definitely a possibility. If the economy continues to grow pretty fast and the valuations don't go as fast, so multiples will retract, then I think there may be a chance of no bubble exposure. But I think at some point of time, the multiples need to retract back to lower valuation than they are today, and we'll see that whether it's going to be. I don't think it's going to happen in the next 12 months or 18 months. But again, I don't know, and no one has this crystal ball that could tell in the future. But definitely, valuations are pretty high today as where we are.
Right. So when people ask me that question, as we say, far be it from me, but my opinion, and again, I guess we're saying the same thing, but my definition of a bubble is that that things that are being funded are just like hot air. And to me, there's more innovation and deep tech today than there's ever been before, specifically in Israel. So valuations might be high, but this is by no means a bubble when there's all this incredible technology. I mean, that's just my opinion. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. I agree. I think many companies are not hot air, but they have substance to them. So that's why I think they're like good to go.
I had a call this week with Roni Abovitz, who was the CEO of Magic Leap, a company that raised over $3 billion from investors. And we had this discussion as well. He recently left the company, but this is a company that, like I said, raised $3 billion, was valued at probably $5 or $6 billion before they had a product, and even when they had a product, they didn't even know what to do with it. So that's just like, if there is a bubble, I think that Magic Leap might be the face of that bubble. You're familiar with Magic Leap, I assume.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. So, I want to ask you a little bit about, your future, because something tells me you're never going to retire. I feel like you just need to be making stuff, and so where's Eyal Waldman in 5 years?
What I do now is I manage the family office. We invest in companies. We invest in venture capitals. We invest in very diversified real estate, in commodities, in private equities, private debt, private or real estate debt. So we're very diversified. I think what I'll continue doing is helping young companies grow and help them be successful.
So you're going to be focusing more on investments than on entrepreneurial stuff.
Right, that's true.
You've gone over to the dark side, Eyal.
I don't think it's the dark side. I'm still helping CEOs run their companies in some cases.
So in terms of capital, it's just an interesting question because there are a lot of funds out there, both global and local, that are setting up shop here and investing. And I feel like there's never been this amount of capital flowing into Israel from all directions. Again, how do you Alibaba partnering with JVP, like on what planet does that even make sense? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Why is everyone pouring money into Israel?
I think everybody's pouring money to where they think the technology is and where they're going to be making money. So if they think they're going to be making money in Israel, that's where they're going to put money. It's like there's a lot of traction here with a lot of technologies, and people realize that. So that's why they're investing here.
I love it. Well, Eyal, you're a busy guy, and I want to be respectful of your time. Definitely appreciate your time today. And I want to know, Amir, are we open to Q&A? I know there's some questions here.
Yes, we're happy to take a few questions.
Okay. You want to read the questions, Amir?
No, please go.
Okay. Let's see what we say here. Someone's agreeing with you about the challenge in human capital. Expanding beyond Israel is a big theme, cultural nuances. That's very important, by the way. Actually, I want to ask you about that, Eyal. As someone who's worked globally, everywhere, what are some kind of challenges that you've seen over the years from a cultural perspective, meaning Israelis in Asia, Israelis in the US? Have you experienced any kind of funny stories that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, first you always need to think locally. So definitely, if you look to Japan or to China, the culture of doing business there is completely different than the one we're used here in Israel. And we need to understand we're not the best of how to do business. So my advice is always look for local people to run your businesses in different geographies instead of sending Israelis there to run them. The cultural clash can be an issue, especially Israelis and Eastern, the Far East or U.S. And that's why using or getting help from local resources is a great idea.
So we have a question from Tamir here. I think you just answered it, but he said, "What is your opinion about outsource local ratio in seed stage?" I assume he means what you just answered, that you should have someone local.
Right.
Is that different in seed stage or it's the same?
No, I think, well, at seed stage, you do it yourself and you fly all over the world. But once you have more resources, you can start hiring people in different locations.
Right. What are your thoughts on companies bootstrapping for as long as possible versus raising early capital? I'm just curious to hear your take on that.
I think you should raise money as early as you can, because I think time is money. Time is very important, and money makes you able to run faster. So I would go and raise money as fast as I can, as much as I can, and run as fast as I can, because while I'm sitting, someone else next to me is doing something similar and may take the market.
Wow, that is a unique perspective for sure, because the earlier you raise, the higher the risk for the investor, obviously, and the less attractive the terms. So, I mean, obviously, if I could raise early on without giving away tens of percentages of my company, then for sure. But you're not worried about an entrepreneur who wants to kind of retain ownership of the company.
If you're very successful, it doesn't really matter if you have 20% or 10%. What's important is to be very successful. If you're not successful, it doesn't matter either. So go raise the money, give some more percentage to your investors, but still be successful with the money that they give you.
Makes sense.
Okay,
all right, one more
guys,
question.
Let's take one more question, and then I think we'll be done, if that's okay.
Yeah, we got one more question. What early stage? I don't know if you can answer this question, Eyal, but what early stage companies are you most excited about from an IP perspective? Who has got something very special following your themes of key verticals?
I think semiconductor is very exciting, and I'm investing in a number of semiconductor companies. I think AI is also very exciting for me. But then also agri-tech. I'm investing in many things. So everything that has a differentiation and has really technology that makes a differentiation, I think is exciting.
Any kind of scoops you could send out? 1 or 2 companies that you've seen recently that you were really blown away by?
I'd rather not go into names for now.
That's what I thought. I had to ask, though. You can't blame a guy for trying, right?
No problem.
Eyal, super appreciative of your time and huge
honor.
Eyal,
if you can just make me host again, because for some reason that's the only way for me to see the video.
How do I do that?
You just go to my name and you.
Okay.
Sorry, carry on, Elon. I'm really sorry.
Okay, make host.
I just wanted to thank Eyal and ask how it's possible that we have not had a cup of coffee yet.
You're always invited. Amir, you're the host.
Yeah, we're very happy. Eyal, I want to thank you for your time. It's always great. I just want to say, from our perspective, raising a fund, I think it's amazing that we have the privilege and the honor of having you on our side. And we have to say that it's actually, you explain your deep depth ideas, and it's really exactly our investment thesis. So I'm really hopeful that in the next few years we will be successful also in your new job as an investor.
Yeah, and I look forward to working with you guys.
Great, thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. Hillel, just as to wrap up in 5 minutes the event. So what do you take out from this conversation with Eyal?
I mean, it's interesting because like I asked him, I'm of the impression that deep tech and IP is becoming less important over the years. And again, of course, Facebook can't scale without deep tech, but what deep tech does Uber have, or Airbnb? Again, they have, servers that helps them scale, but is there any deep technology there? I don't know. So semiconductors is obviously deep technology. AI is deep technology, but if you look at all the winners, they're not really tech companies per se, like Intel and IBM were. So I'm very interested. Like, it's a very interesting take that he thinks that deep technology is what's most interesting today. What are your thoughts on that, Amir?
Well, I think you're right, but I think it really depends in which industry, because look at, for instance, the names you just mentioned, whether it's Airbnb or Facebook, Twitter, or Uber, all these things. These are very, very much services, B2C services companies. But then if you go out of this very, very narrow, it's very, group of company, then if you go to, to the wider spectrum, I think that that probably is not true anymore, because that's true when you talk to the consumer. Is it really true when you talk to about B2B companies? Not so sure, really.
Interesting. Okay, that's interesting. No, I think, Eyal is positioned better than almost anyone to predict and to anticipate what we're going to see in this ecosystem of the next couple of years. So that was a very interesting kind of outlook. But yeah, I mean, I think, honestly, I think more people need to know about Eyal Waldman. Like, I feel like he's like a humble guy. He's like under the radar. I feel like I should go work with him on marketing, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, great, for sure. For sure.
But
okay,
it was
so
great conversation.
It is a great conversation. Oh, yeah, Yitzhak Hakmon is asking Innoviz versus Fiverr. What's your thoughts on it? We invested in Innoviz, of course, but both Innoviz and Fiverr very well.
Innoviz or Fiverr? I don't even understand the question. What do they
What
have
do
to
you
do
mean?
with each other?
No, in terms of business model, really, I think. In terms of deep tech versus services.
Okay. I mean, yeah. So I don't think he's asking a question. I think he's just explaining what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, I met with Fiverr today, and their growth is just phenomenal. And Innoviz, you introduced me to Innoviz, and I met them, and that was also phenomenal. So, I think how we're diversifying in Israel is what's really interesting. Like I said, we're every single sector, pretty much, we're a significant player, and that's what's really exciting for me.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for your time, Hilal, as well. Thanks so much to everybody for having joined us.
There will be a recording. Hold on one second, Amir. There will be, somebody asked if there's a recording. It is being recorded, number one. I just want to give two quick announcements. Number one, if you're watching and you are interested in Israeli deep tech, especially early stage, speak to Amir, because he is now raising a fund after having deployed capital in literally some of the most exciting companies in this country. So speak to him if that's of interest to you, number one. And number two, this is the first Champel Summit. We will be doing this, please God, every month. So, pay attention to when we post about the next one. And we're all, open to any ideas of people you want us to invite. So feel free to shoot us some feedback, and we will see you next time.
Great. Thanks, Ilan. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.